Good morning, folks. How's everybody doing?
Wednesday, yay.
Whoop, whoop.
Well, we're going to give folks another maybe 2 or 3 minutes to join us. I know we're waiting on Provost Clemens to join us. So just give us a few minutes and we'll get started. How's everybody's units doing? March is upon us, which is crazy.
I have paper snowflakes in my office. The last 2 weeks, those snowflakes have been mocking me.
We didn't get any snowflakes this season.
Some flurries that didn't do anything, like 3 o'clock in the morning, I think.
We're getting yellow snow.
Ugh. I smelled it outside yesterday. I was like, ew, it is
I
here.
taste it. Yeah, it's terrible.
I sat outside at lunch yesterday, had to clean my tablet screen off twice. Get the snow, get the yellow snow.
Yuck. It's not pretty falling down like real snow is.
No, not at all. And it's not great for the allergies. So
Oh my God, sister. Fortunately, mine are getting better as I age. That's one good thing about aging. I really like that.
yeah, I read an article on WRL yesterday talking about how this is the absolute earliest ever in history that they've been taking pollen counts, that the pine pollen has been at this level this early and ever in February. So it's kind of interesting what that might mean.
I didn't need them to tell me that. But actually, it's not technically pine pollen yet. Technically, it's juniper.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Pine's still on its way.
Technically, it's terrifying because
It's unsettling.
It's going to be terrible this year.
It's just really actually not funny that we're seeing global warming, but this just goes to show you what one good snow will do. It would have slowed this down.
Yep. True.
Good morning, folks. All right. Provost Clemens has just arrived. We'll give him a couple of seconds to join. All right, folks. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Happy March to you all. I hope your Februarys weren't as chaotic as mine. Hopefully, my brain will calm down a little bit in the next week or so after the tumultuous February. So, good morning. We have Provost Clemens here to join us for our typical Chancellor Provost roundtable. So thanks for being with us, Chris. Good morning. And I'm just going to turn it over to you and we'll kind of hear some updates from you and then we'll have time for questions.
Great. Thank you. I know there'll be a lot of questions, so I'll be brief. I just want to talk about a few things that I did last week. I hope some of you were able to go see Omar, the fantastic opera that was at Carolina Performing Arts this weekend. It was, I think the word is spectacular. It was a production like none I've ever seen in that space. Also, last week, we had the inaugural Jenna Ray McNeil lecture for African American History Month, and a tremendous scholar from Harvard speaking about history in a kind of broad way, drawing in African military history, Caribbean slave revolts, and the U.S. Revolution to depict a very interesting view of our national story that was both captivating, and I felt I learned more about history in 1 hour with this professor than I've learned in years. So there's been a lot of great stuff happening on campus. Also some challenges. So we do have a new rule or code around compelled speech. We can talk about that. We're talking now with the system office to get more guidance. My view is we will narrowly tailor some changes that we hope will satisfy that code and try to leave most things alone. We are certainly not going to back off of our strategic plan and any of its prerogatives around inclusion and diversity. And so we'll be figuring out what guidance to give, but I think we're not there. There's going to be a little bit more work. I have had some meetings with the fixed term faculty committees, and our deans are going to discuss some of the work that the fixed term faculty have asked me to bring to the deans on our deans meeting Thursday. I think we've more or less winding down some conversations that were contentious around the School of Civic Life and Leadership. The faculty council met on that, passed some resolutions. I met with them Monday, and I thought their resolutions were a step in the right direction. So I think we're getting that where it needs to be, where the faculty will direct the efforts and will respect the prerogatives of faculty, as well as respect the board's right to ask us to do things and hold us accountable, but not to try to do them for us. So I think, we can talk about that too. I know you probably have many other issues. We did have a protest about accessibility. I don't want to skip over that. I think we can talk about it. I'm not really at the center of that work, but I know there's much work going on. And what I'll say good about that is we did get through the Board of Governors and the System Office a fairly large capital funds request to address deferred maintenance on campus. And Nate and Steve and our finance team have been doing better and better at getting that lined up and through the process. Of course, the legislature has to act on it. So it's not money until the legislature appropriates it. But we have in the last couple of years received a large amount of funds to address these things. The state is engaged. They're trying to help us. And some of it is more operational and aging equipment and spares that are hard to find. It's interesting. I went to the system office twice for Board of Governor meetings and a chief academic office meeting in Raleigh. And they have an elevator that takes you out of the parking lot. And only one of the 3 elevators is working. And this is a brand new building because they're having trouble getting crews to come and repair those. So I think it's partly a pandemic issue on some of the details, but I know there's a lot of activity to try to make sure that our workplace and our classrooms are accessible. Again, I don't have I'm not at the center of it, but I'm happy to talk about it. So those are the key things I see going on. Maybe you want to raise others. I'm happy to do that, but let's just have a conversation. So I'm happy to be here. It's wonderful to see you all, and I'm happy to stay here for 20 or so minutes, or even longer if there are more questions.
All right, folks, opening up the floor for questions for Provost Clemens. Feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourself. Silence. I don't know if that's a good or a bad sign, Chris.
I have something to say, and you'll see it in the chat. We were just talking about accessibility and the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee meeting on Monday. So this is great. We will follow up.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. We have some challenging buildings, as you know, especially in the college where a lot of the students take their classes. Some of the buildings are pretty old and some of the equipment is hard to maintain. So I don't want to call out anything in particular because I don't know the details, but I do know it is a struggle sometimes to keep things.
It is. And we didn't want to sit there only admonishing once we address this topic. Bioinformatics, said Janet. Yes. Yeah, it's not just students either. It's students, graduate students, staff, a lot of things. We wanted to come up with an opening for discussion and look at some of the progress that has been made and look at the things that are assets, but also highlight attention, in a positive attention getting way to things that can be done and things we want people to be aware of. So thank you. We will follow up on that.
Well, Elizabeth, I want to thank you for that constructive approach. The legislature does pay attention to how we behave collectively over here. And the more we can be grateful for the investments they did last year and hopeful that we'll get some capital, some capital to do the remedial work on our facilities. We really are at the mercy of the appropriation process. The more we can be constructive and say, look, we want the same things. We want this flagship campus to function well and serve the people of the state. Those students, those staff, those faculty are stakeholders and taxpayers, and they deserve the state investment to keep the workplace accessible.
And two of the reasons we thought accentuating the positive and eliminating the negative is also don't settle for Mr. In Between. We want to show things that have worked that we may not even see as inclusive and accessible assets, getting our money's worth out of, benches being places where people need to rest. But we do want to highlight the need to not just say, okay, we built this new building. Who cares if the bathroom door is too heavy for someone in a wheelchair to open? Like, we don't want to just talk about old buildings, but moving forward, new buildings, things to not have in the original plans for them that fall by the wayside when the budget has to be trimmed.
Right.
Anyway, non-negotiables.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your work. I really do.
Can we call for demolishing Hamilton as a remedial activity on campus?
Well, it has been problematic in many ways, right? I think there were some facade issues and now we have elevator issues. The problem with buildings like that is they carry a heavy load of people, and then there's the archaeology collections in the basement. I have grown up and lived here in Phillips Hall since coming in '98. And there's always talk about how we're going to renovate Phillips Hall. Parts of it were built in 1918. You can't do it. You have no swing space to put people in. And so you move people around on the inside and you patch. So very hard.
Yeah. Other
There's-
questions for Provost Clemens?
I'll say there's an elevator that I hope has been fixed. I haven't been in it in 20 some years, but it still had a gate. And the building was only 3 floors. And whenever possible, I avoided using that elevator because sometimes I'd have to ride it 2 or 3 times before it would stop on a floor. But it's been 20 years, so hopefully that's been fixed.
I don't know that elevator. There's one in the observatory over at Moorhead that goes only between the top floor and the observing where the dome is. And I don't think anybody gets in that one.
This was the old nurses' dormitory.
Ah, okay, okay. Well, again, I know that that facilities evaluates each one. They all obviously have to be inspected, but I've asked whether we could do a critical spares analysis on some of these things and have hot spares for the more antique equipment. That may or may not be practical. The problem is something breaks, and if it's an obsolete part, you're waiting months and months for the part.
Well, I'll say the ceiling is literally falling in the employee forum office. So we're very well aware of maintenance issues. And
Are you in Henry Owl or where?
no, we're in the Porthole Alley project.
Okay. Well, there is a schedule. So that is on the capital priority list that has gone forward. So there may be hope for you.
Hopefully we'll get moved out of there sooner rather than later, so Matt doesn't have ceiling tiles falling on his head. Other questions, thoughts, comments for Provost Clemens? I'll say we did briefly discuss the proposed new School of Civic Life and Leadership in this group in various settings over the past couple of weeks. And I'll say a lot of the concerns the faculty raised are very important ones, but the staff have equal amounts of concerns over proposing a new school when staff are so stretched thin already on this campus. So proposal of a new school that takes a massive amount of staff infrastructure to put a new school together is very concerning for us. So hopefully we'll move forward in a direction that's both productive and intentional in that front.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. I'm glad you're using the word proposed. It was just that. It was a white paper, a 2-page proposal. No work has been done to develop that, no substantive work. And so there will have to be a lot of discussion about whether it's the right thing and how it would work and what size it would be. So that will go on. I think, this is what faculty do. We did this process for a much larger effort. The School of Data Science is a much larger effort. And we did it in a thoughtful way, and we'll do this in a thoughtful way as well.
Excellent. Anything else for Provost Clemens today? I will say there's a slight concern over a COVID outbreak in the law school right now after the Barristers Ball this past weekend. So that's a fun new development.
So we have a cluster associated with a social event.
We do indeed. So the COVID monster has not yet left us behind. So hopefully everyone else across campus is faring well in that front as well.
Well, yeah, I think that's going to be with us. We will manage it for a long time, hopefully in ways that are less threatening to our health, but it's still very serious. So I think we have to keep that in mind.
Great. All right, well, thanks as always, Chris. You're welcome to stay on. We've got our next speaker is amazing as always. I know you love to hear from her. So I'll move right into that. So we have Dawn.
Yeah, thank you. I'll hang out as long as I can, and then I'll go have another meeting later, but I'll stay until then. Thank you so much.
We've got Dawn Osborne-Adams here with us, the amazing, the illustrious, to talk to us about the Ombuds office and the amazing work that they're doing here on campus. So Dawn, I'll let you take it away. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for having me. Can everybody hear me? I don't know that I can live up to that introduction. I'll try, but I don't know that I can live up to that. But I want to say thank you already for adding to my vocabulary. Between Mr. In Between and Worn Out Wednesday, I now have a few extra phrases in my toolkit to go forward with. I have some slides that I'm going to share. I have a very ambitious number of slides, so I'm going to speak very quickly so that we can get to having some conversation and taking questions. I'm here on behalf of our Ombuds team. I'll talk a little bit about that team, but Josh Canzona and Victoria Dowd are also on the call, and I'm going to tell you about what I believe is the very good work we do on campus, and I'm happy to be here to be able to do that. Let me see if I can manage to share these slides. What does that look like on your end? Does it look the way it's supposed to? Yep. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the University Ombuds Office, and we have this framed as a resource for navigating challenging situations because we like to think about our work broadly. Often people will talk about our office as it relates to conflict, and we broaden it a little bit to think about challenging situations because often when people think about conflict, they think about interpersonal conflict, and we really help people with any challenge that they face in their life at the university. So I thought I'd start out with the mission statement because this helps me cover a lot of ground very quickly. I'm not going to read it because everybody here can read it, but the first paragraph gets to the idea that the Ombuds Office is open to anybody on any issue. It just has to be related to Carolina. So no jurisdictional constraints, no limit about who can come or what they can bring. There's two places like that on campus. One is the Ombuds Office and the other is the Chancellor's Office. And so it's meant to be this wide open field where people don't have to wonder, can I take this to the Ombuds Office? The next paragraph says we're committed to ethical Ombuds practice. And you've probably heard us talk about the fact that we're confidential and informal, and that as Ombuds, we're structurally independent from the rest of the university, and we're also impartial. So that's what those ethical standards are. And that helps us do the work that's really the heart of our office. And that is having people come in, giving them a wide open space to be able to talk freely about whatever they're facing, help them think about goals and options and strategize what they're going to do next. And then finally that's the paragraph is more the macro work that we do, where we do some education with workshops, which I'll talk about later. We sometimes facilitate between people or amongst groups. And we really try to work in service to everybody on campus at every level, making more thoughtful decisions, thinking about processes. I heard the word constructive earlier, trying to be constructive and trying to just be a bit more humane overall. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about why we have an Ombuds office, the big ideas behind our office. I have to take my glasses off. I have somehow reached an age where I can't see with my glasses on. I can't see with them off. It's bad. Okay, so I have a few things that I want to share about just why we exist. So anybody who knows me knows I like a little bit of levity. And this slide is really meant to represent the fact that we all have a different perspective. It is never a surprise to us anymore when two people who experience the very same thing come to the Ombuds office and have very different accounts of what they experience. So the Ombuds office is here as a place to not necessarily reconcile those perspectives, but allow people to explore a range of perspectives and also give people the opportunity when it's appropriate to try and talk through to some understanding of those different perspectives. So this is another reason we exist, because everybody comes to university, students, faculty, staff, administrators, they come expecting their experience here to be this ball of yarn. So if you've ever been into a yarn store, it's beautiful, it's orderly, you know where the beginning of a ball of yarn is, you know where the end is. And sometimes people end up with this. in their study or in their work, even leaders end up with this, and the Ombuds office is a place where people can come and start to untangle a little bit. So many, so this is also my own knitting life. Like I have so many balls of yarn like this from trying to be a knitter, but so many situations are just so tightly wound and tightly tangled that part of the first task is to try to figure out where the end of that string is and not pull it tighter. And I think we support people in doing that. And then this final slide is meant to represent the fact that we all exist in a hierarchy, and everybody in that hierarchy is not situated the same, doesn't have the same level of authority, don't feel they have the same level of voice or agency. And the Ombuds office is not a place that we can't turn this into a flat organization, but we can, I think, help people maybe access some agency within themselves and empower themselves a little bit, if nothing else through information, to be able to achieve some of their goals. So I'm not going to talk very long about this, but I did this same presentation for the Provost and Chancellor's Joint Cabinet, and I'm sharing a lot of the same slides because I think it's important for everybody to have the same information. And so this slide identifies the different ways that we solve problems. We solve any problem through interest or rights or power. And the Ombuds office is really focused on interests. We have, I think, the privilege and the luxury of having time to spend with people to really try to get to the core of what is it that's important to them, what is it they don't want to have happen, what they're trying to avoid, what they want to happen, what they need. And those are really interests, and that is our focus. But we exist in a larger organization where there's units that deal with rights. And sometimes people want to go and say, you know, I'm entitled to this outcome. They want to go to EOC or to HR or to a supervisor to say, I want you to decide who's right and wrong here, what policy applies, what rules apply. And then we also exist in a system where there's power. There's people who have authority to act unilaterally to make people do things they wouldn't otherwise want to do. And so if you take nothing else from this, take two things. One is that there's different ways that we approach different problems. Not all of them can be approached through any of these, one of these means necessarily. And the other is that the Ombuds office really does focus on interest, but we also rely on a system that has credible rights-based processes, and also that has individuals who have power to use it effectively and appropriately. And we help people move between all three of these different approaches. Okay, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about operations, so it's not quite as abstract. So it's a little more practical about what we're actually doing. This is our team, and we are a small but mighty team, as people say. We get an awful lot done, and I think have a pretty good time together doing it. We are on Franklin Street across from the Carolina Coffee Shop. We're back in our offices. We don't take walk-in appointments anymore, but we meet with people in person or by video or by phone. We really prioritize access and try to meet at times that are, you know, make sense for people. And so that means that sometimes we're meeting with people very, very early or very, very late, but we try to make it happen. And then also our services are free and voluntary. Nobody should tell anybody they have to come to the Ombuds office, and nobody should be coming to the Ombuds office because they feel they must. And, you know, there's no charge for our services. So these are the types of concerns that people bring to an Ombuds. This is not an exhaustive list. It's a sampling, but I think it's a pretty representative sample. Communication is, sometimes I think it's at the heart of everything. I cannot remember who said this to me. It may have been you, Katie, who said, I've come to believe that communication problems are the root of everything that goes wrong. Was that you? I think it was.
It sounds like it could be me.
And then concerns related to, you know, people's lives on campus. People may think, I'm not sure if the issue I'm dealing with has to do with harassment or discrimination, but I want to be able to talk with someone before taking any action. And the Ombuds office is a place where people can do that in an off-the-record way without triggering an obligation for us to act. I talked about complicated situations. Ethical dilemmas, there's a lot of issues that end up in the Ombuds office that are just so I don't know, tricky and sticky and unusual, that nobody knows what to do about them. We sometimes see staff members who say, I have full support of my supervisor, my leadership, and none of us know what to do about this issue. So we want another person to think with us about this. And you see it says thought partnership there. And that's what that is. Sometimes we sit with people and think of, you know, how would you even begin to approach this? What information do you need? We help people prepare for challenging conversations. No, I don't know many people who say they like conflict. There's people who maybe are more experienced or more inclined to approach it, and those who are more inclined to avoid it. I don't know that I've met anybody who says they love it, but people will come to the Ombuds office to, you know, get a little bit of assistance in how might I approach this conversation that I think is going to be difficult or challenging. I talked a little bit about rights, and that rights are at the heart of formal process and reporting. So there's interest where people need things or want to have a better relationship, but sometimes we're in the realm of misconduct. Sometimes we're in the realm of somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing, and a person is trying to decide, do I want to report this to the university or not? And that is a process that we talk about it like it's an event, but really it's a process that can take people, depending on the seriousness, it could take people days or weeks or even months to come to a conclusion about what they want to do. And sometimes that grappling process is, we can be helpful as people work through that. I don't need to tell anybody here about team dynamics, I'm sure, but you get a bunch of people together who are all driven and have limited resources and sometimes not very clear roles, and they have better days and worse days. And I think the rest of these are pretty self-explanatory. I'll say interpersonal conflict and request for facilitation. There are times when talking with another person is the only way through something. And there are different places on campus where that can happen. The Ombuds office is not the only place, it's one place where we will sit with 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, and support them in having a conversation that they might not otherwise have without that support. See, I told you we do a lot. So we also help build capacity on campus. So these are some of the workshops that we do for different units. And I want to highlight particularly, I'll highlight the first thing on the list and the last thing on the list. We will come to any unit, to any school, to any division to do a short presentation, longer presentation about the Ombuds office and what services we offer. Sometimes we embed a little bit of teaching in that, and we'll talk a little bit about conflict and get into subject matter a little bit more. Sometimes it's just an overview so that people have the information they need. But I think people with a service like this that's so high touch and high context and sensitive issues, people like to see and get a sense of who's in the office, and we're happy to do that. And then finally, at the bottom, it says custom topics upon request, that we occasionally get requests that, you know, that don't fit into one of these. And we're trying to build more kind of off the shelf programs, and we'll work with people to develop a program that is right for their unit. We do need good lead time because, again, there are only 3 of us in the office. So I think this is maybe a little bit behind, but I made this slide some weeks ago, but this will give you a sense of utilization of our office. I would say that we are right at or past capacity probably in terms of consultations. Always throughout the years is pretty much equally split between faculty and staff, with graduate students and administrators being the next users of the office. And then undergraduates have a lot of resources on campus. There's a lot of people they can go to for help. We don't see as many undergraduates. When they come, it's usually something that just doesn't fit anywhere else, and they need a service like this where they can bring it and figure things out. We see mostly individuals, but do sometimes meet with groups. And then this last line, I'm especially proud of this, that we've touched every part of the university, every division and every school in the last 2 years. So we also lead outside of Carolina, and I want to talk about this because I'm proud of this. Our office, even before I came here, founded a UNC, North Carolina Regional Ombuds Group. We've also founded a time for ombuds in the UNC system to get together. Josh and Victoria are in a leadership role for a Southeast Ombuds Group. And then we all also participate in our professional association, which is the International Ombuds Association. This link, this embedded link here of transforming conflict on college campuses, I'll put the link in the chat when I finish, because I hope everyone will take a little bit of time to look at this report. But we contributed to this report, which has, I think, some really good strategies and some really good guidance about how campuses might, I'll say, do conflict better, might evolve in that space. We are the link to the university for a grant project that's coming up will be a community cornerstone institution along with K through 12 and faith leaders. It's a grant that's designed to embed skills of dialogue and constructive communication throughout a whole community. And the Ombuds office was the liaison for that grant. Feel great about that. These last two, finally, the scientific community is really trying to figure out how to have better lab environments, how to have better research environments. And I'm thrilled that funders are thinking about what their role is in that. The people who are funding scientific projects are thinking about how they might play a role, and they are turning to Ombuds to learn more about what really happens in those environments and how we envision Ombuds, how we envision funders may play a role. So we're doing things beyond the university as well. And I'm going to just end with a few kind of closing thoughts. So our team talked so much about this slide yesterday. And the first one is probably goes without saying, but I'm going to say it every single chance I get to everybody, which is that we have all been through a lot, all of us, me included. And I think we have to keep that front of mind as we move through life on campus. The second I think I've said this a lot, or said the spirit of this a lot, which is thoughtful deliberation really helps us all make better decisions, no matter what level we're working on. And we are both a proactive resource. So when people come early, they have more options. When people come to deliberate before they've made the decision, hopefully we help them make a better decision. And we're also a responsive resource. So I don't want to suggest that in a more reactive or responsive space, we're not here, but I want people to think about us as both. Conflict can be transformative. So none of us like it, but it can be an opportunity for us to see differently and to do better. And then this is the bullet that we talked about a lot about, should we say this? Should we not say it? Is it too foreboding? But it's the truth that there's some conflict that it doesn't ever go away. You'll never hear me use the phrase conflict resolution because it's too big of a promise. Some conflict we have to just continue to constantly be reflective about it and think about what our goals are and how we take care of ourselves in the midst of it, because it's going to be an enduring struggle as long as we're in it. And then finally, this is a thing I say all the time. I probably said it the last time I was here, which is small things matter a lot. The little micro interactions that we have with each other day to day, the good mornings, the how are you doing today, the that's a beautiful scarf, whatever it is, those little micro interactions matter a lot. And so I'll just end with this. This is something that a UNC student wrote about the Ombuds office and her experience, and I think she says it better than I could.
Thank you so much for this, Dawn. This is
Right.
helpful.
So now I have to figure out how to stop sharing. Hold on one second. Let's see. There we go.
Perfect.
All right, I told you I was going to talk fast and I had a lot of slides. So does anybody have any questions or comments?
Liz, your hand's up.
Let me lower my hand. Thank you so much, Dawn. I was the one who said, how long has it been since we heard from Dawn's team at the employee forum? Can you just describe briefly what you mean by thought partnership?
So that is a great question. That's something else we talked about in the team. Like, well, people know what that means. So thought partnership is sometimes I would say a lot of administrators will come and say, I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm not trying to get any information from you or policy clarification or intervention. I'm coming because I'm thinking through something and I need somebody who's not in it and can analyze it with me to think with me. And so they might say, do you see any red flags, or do you think I could frame this differently? Do you think I might approach it differently? So a thinking partner, literally, who can give you a more distance objective perspective. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you for asking that.
James.
James.
Hi, Don.
Hi.
I don't have a question for you. I just wanted to say thank you to you for all the support that you've given the housekeeping department, because we have a lot of issues going on. And I just want to praise you for all the support that you and your team have given us.
Thank you so much, James. We're happy to be able to be there to do that.
Other questions, thoughts for Dawn? I want to give a huge kudos to Dawn because she's amazing and a unicorn of a human being. I think I've said that before, but I also want to give a huge kudos to her team. Joshua and Victoria are rock stars, and I don't know how the three of you do what you do. It's amazing and it's so valuable, and we appreciate you so much.
Thank you very much. Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
So today is my late mother's birthday. She would have been 91 years old today. And so every March 1st, I honor her she loved butter pecan ice cream, and I go and get a scoop of butter pecan ice cream. And I think about the things that she taught me about how to try and be good and do good in this world. She was a Black woman who was like way ahead of her time and so brilliant and achieved a lot, and probably would have achieved more if she'd been, a young person today. And so one of the things I always think about that she said to me is she would always say, Dawn, there's good in everybody. And I'll say as of late, that theory, I'm like, is that an overstatement? It might be, but I think the spirit of it is right. She would say there is good in everybody. There's some people you just have to look really, really hard to find it. And so I just share that as a kind of to honor her legacy and to end on that note that we're going to go out and try to find the good in everybody. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Dawn. Arlene, you had a quick hand up.
Where do you get butter pecan ice cream around here? Because I haven't had any since I left Greensboro and Yum Yums.
Mapleview Farms.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
you did not say Yum Yums in Greensboro. OMG. Yum.
Yum.
Oh, I miss Yum Yums.
Your wine floats, yes. All right. Well, thanks again, Dawn. We appreciate you. You're welcome to stay with us if you would like. And we are moving on to the next portion of our agenda, which is our typical human resources update. Becci and her team are here to provide some updates. Welcome, Becci.
Thanks so much. I gotta say, it is really hard to follow Dawn. I also happen to note that Dawn was welcomed as an amazing and illustrious, and then I got, and we're here for our usual HR updates. Becci's here. So
I'm so sorry, Becci. I'm so sorry.
I'm totally joking. I hope you take it as a joke. It was totally intended that way. I'm going to go off script just a little bit based on something Dawn said. And I too share your feelings, Katie, about Dawn, and believe that she is a magical unicorn, and the work of her team is actually invaluable to the university. And one of the things she put on her slides was that conflict never really goes away. And I know I stand before you monthly as the leader of HR and EOC. And it's fair to say, I'm only joking about my introduction, but it's fair to say that HR and EOC often don't have the reputation for being as human-centered in the same way as the Ombuds office. And part of that is just the sheer mission of the Ombuds office, and that's why it's a valuable resource. HR and EOC are guided by regulations and compliance. We like to believe we have very human-centered people working behind the regulations and compliance, but sometimes the very processes we need to go through don't always start in the same place that the Ombuds does, and that's why we need to be partners in the way we work together, and that's why collectively we are services for all of you. One of the things that sort of dawned on me, and it's a very odd disconnect, but for whatever reason, when Dawn talked about small things matter and sort of the way the Ombuds is about building community, I got to thinking. I was at a meeting just a couple of weeks ago, and there were quite a roster of speakers, but there was one speaker from Ohio State, and if I could remember his name, I'd tell you, and if I could remember all of the details of his presentation, I'd tell you those as well. But he happens to study leadership, and he outlined that there are probably a little over 5 million leadership books in the world. And when you bundle all those together, oh yes, it is the Ohio State. Thanks, Keith. And I'll just follow that by, oh, how I hate the Ohio State. But that's beside the point. The researcher was excellent, and he said that there's about 5 million pages, or 5 million research, or 5 million leadership books. When you add up all the pages, it ends up to being like 58 billion pages of leadership and a gazillion theories about leadership. He pointed out that he's read not all of those 5 million, but a good bunch of them. And I'm enjoying the chat. He's read a good bunch of those books. And at the end of the day, even if you pull apart all of those pages and all of those leadership theories, what leadership is generally about is about relationships. And all of those relationships in his mind center around 2 questions. Can I trust you? And do you care about me? And I was really struck by the fact that we can break down all of leadership into conversations about relationships and answer those 2 questions. Can I trust you? And do you care about me? And when I think about my own role in working and what I want out of my employer and out of my supervisor is someone who trusts me and someone I can trust and somebody who I believe cares about me. I know we're not all fortunate enough to have that, but I can tell you that from an HR perspective and an EOC perspective, we are invested in trying to create a community where you feel that people care about you and that you can trust what it is we're saying. This researcher went on to say that he has taken those 2 questions and tweaked them some to drive all of his performance reviews. And he now asks 2 questions in his performance reviews. And he asks, what has the organization done to help you in your professional goals? And what have I done or can I do to help you in reaching your professional goals? So he's trying to get at those 2 questions of trust and care by using it in his performance reviews. And he talked about how those conversations were really astounding. And I know a couple of my direct reports are on the call today. I came back and had conversations with my own team about exactly that. It's not yet performance review time, but I have to say, these are conversations that we have, I think, fairly regularly. Link can chime in and tell you if he thinks I'm wrong. And I think my team generally knows that I care about them, but I wanted to check in on that as well. I never want to take that for granted. But it was also a real good opportunity for us to talk about what is the organization doing, separate and apart from what am I doing? And the 2 both matter. I hope this is something, I mean, I don't really have an end to this story other than this small moment mattered to me. It mattered for me, the way I think about my own role at the university and the role I play in the lives of the people who work for me, and ultimately all of the lives of all of you and others on campus for whom I have some responsibility as your Vice Chancellor. That's not an important thing that you have to do anything with. Maybe this is where we get into the thought leadership question Don was talking about, but I know performance review time is coming up. Many of you are supervisors yourselves. I might encourage you to think about whether some of these questions could be useful to you. For those of you who are not supervisors, but perhaps have some anxiety about having that performance review with your supervisor, I encourage you to flip the script. Maybe have these conversations with your supervisor saying, I'm interested in asking you a couple of questions. and have a conversation about some of those things. We have really complicated formal forms for performance reviews. We have documents you got to fill out. We have competencies you got to meet and all of that other stuff. At the end of the day, though, those are just frames that help us get, maybe sometimes don't help us as much as they could, but are intended to help us get to these conversations. So as performance review time comes, I encourage you to think about that sort of thing and how you might want to have that conversation. And I hope you know that we stand at the ready to help, and that I hope at the end of the day, you can trust what it is that I'm delivering your way, and that you know, because I really, really do care about all of you. Some days you test my nerves, but generally I care about all of you very much. With that, I'm going to jump into my actual script, and I'll keep it relatively brief because I know we've got some other people behind me. But one is typically about this time, I start talking about the budget and what the legislature is doing and what it's going to mean for all of us. At this point in time, they are in session. It's my understanding that both the House and the Senate are separately having discussions about what they want in their budget. The House, I believe it is, don't quote me on that because I got my news and I sometimes confuse the two. I believe is aiming for an Easter time draft budget, and then the Senate will follow them. We have no idea whether that will actually be the timeline, but we're optimistic. We have heard nothing about what the plans are associated with state employee increases, though there has been a fair amount of advocacy suggesting that we need those. There have also been discussions, I think I've talked earlier, there are some plans to look at ranges, and there have been discussions about making a request for an added labor market adjustment fund, so that when and if ranges are adjusted, there are some additional resources, particularly for those folks that are well below range, or their ranges are low now and they're at the top of the range and there isn't necessarily capacity to move. I do want to be very clear. I mentioned previously that that the system office is looking at both EHRA and SHRA ranges. I know we've stated before on the regular that we continue to have concerns about the fact that the ranges haven't been updated for a long time. We did just go through a labor market adjustment reserve allocation. Some of you saw increases as a result of that. And we have now seen more and more people above 100% of the market rates. When and if the ranges move, I want to be clear, that does not mean everybody's going to get an increase at once. I'm really trying to set expectations. This is not the news everybody wants to hear, but it's not normal for everybody to be sitting at 100% or 110% of range. That is not the explicit plans of the state plan moving forward. What the intent is to understand and regulate the ranges and then have bell curves within the ranges. That's the hope long term. The fact that they've not given increases over time and then not updated ranges means that we're dealing with a very messed up system. But the intent is to level set by getting ranges and then work our way to move people through them. We're also going to prioritize as a campus any way we can, putting additional campus resources into addressing any adjusted labor or any market ranges. So that's news to come. The couple in follow up to, I'm switching gears totally. Sorry, I'm doing a really bad job of tracking this morning, but switching gears. At one of the previous meetings, you all asked if we were going to reinstate recognition events for the 20-year folks and then for other milestones. We are going to be able to reinstate events. We are still working on a gift program. That is a much bigger endeavor, as you might imagine, but we are going to go ahead and reinstate events, and those are likely to happen yet this spring. We're working through the details on that. And then probably most importantly, and I'll take questions before I pitch it over to Jessica, but on March 15th, we are having the Employee Wellness Expo over in Fetzer Hall. This is a day-long event intended to provide you an opportunity to consider your wellness in all facets, from mental health to physical health to financial health and everything in between. We have sent notice to deans and leaders and elsewhere suggesting that this be, as to the extent possible, a meeting-free day, and encouraging people to make room for all employees to be able to have time and space to attend the Wellness Expo. Jessica can talk more specifically about the details. And before I pitch it over to her, I'll stop my updates there and take any questions you all may have.
Questions for Becci? Liz?
I think you're on mute, Liz.
This is very much an HR question. I will not go into research per se, but again, we are facing a situation where, because we can only hire research coordinators and assistants that have a bachelor's degree, we continue to get people landed in these jobs and others screened out that would have been capable. And the ones that land the jobs, because they have a bachelor's and because the salary is still so low, they have plans to try to do things like match in medical school. And the turnover is something to be dealt with. Is this something we can plan on changes to? Because we can't really function functionally in this way, and it wastes money.
Right. We're aware of the problem. We have articulated that problem to the system office. It is an OSHR requirement. We are working through the year. It's not just that position. There are a handful of others that we're working through. I wouldn't say we have immediate progress, but we are making progress with OSHR, and we hope that is something that we will see a change to. But I wouldn't count on it real quickly.
I'm not counting on it. I just have to say in 2 years, it's going to happen again. And they either need to open up flexibility in hiring with people that have certificates, or they need to give me more money to pay those people. It ain't going to work.
Yeah, totally get it.
Becci, you talked about performance evaluation season a little bit in your comments initially. I know there was a lot of confusion last year with the first kind of new iteration of the timeline for this process. So I'm just hoping that there will be more communication about the timeline this year to kind of reinforce that we're still in this new kind of like step-by-step timeline process, because that was a bit problematic last year.
That's fair feedback. I'm going to defer to Link, and we can certainly circle back with our comms folks and make sure that we're doing a good job of communicating broadly about what the expectations are.
And I put another note of feedback in the chat around communication around the meeting free day concept happening like ASAP, because people's calendars are already filling up, and I know supervisors are not aware yet that they're being expected to have a meeting free day.
The comms went out to leaders the other day, and they were asked to communicate with supervisors, and then there's some additional communication coming out. So it should be out there shortly.
I, as a supervisor, had not heard anything about it in anything other than these settings. So I just will say that.
And I totally appreciate that. We started with leaders, and I count on leaders to communicate to their supervisors and others, and then it goes out more broadly. So that one I know has gone out. What I don't know is the sequencing on the others, but that one I know went out because it went out under my name and I sent it directly. So I can assure you that the word is getting out. I mean, it's on its way, I should say. I can assure you it's on its way. Yeah.
Oh, good, Randall. School of medicine leadership has been communicating well. That's good to hear. Other questions for Becci before we move into Jessica's wellness updates? No.
Excellent, y'all.
Excellent.
I'll let Jessica jump in. She's got a great lineup for the Wellness Expo and a host of other things coming your way. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, Becci. Mic check. Can you hear me all right? 1, 2. All right, perfect. Well, happy March. I know it's a little confusing on what month it might be with the high temperatures and the early pollen. Hopefully I can get through these updates without sneezing. So with it being March, it is our big month. As Becci had mentioned, it is the month of the Total Wellbeing Expo. So Katie, I dropped in the chat box. I hear your concerns. That larger email went out to deans and vice chancellors last week. every single person should have gotten an email about the expo this morning. It came out around that 8:15 time slot. So if you didn't, I will forward it to you, but it has a total being header at the top of it and then goes into the details. So the expo will be in person on Wednesday. We're happy to be meeting in person again. It's going to be back at Fetzer Hall. If you've been at the university for a while, that's the location we held it in 2019. It works best for the space. And it'll be 11 to 2, but we will be opening up the exhibit hall for those wellness checks provided by the state health plan as early as 9 a.m. So you don't need an appointment to get a wellness check, but it is encouraged. Those screening supplies are limited, but we have not run out in the past, but maybe this year's the year. Sign up in advance if you can. It is a designated no meetings day, which was communicated, and time spent attending the expo, of course, is considered work time with your supervisor's approval. Here are some things we have lined up for you. So there's going to be discounted healthy lunch options available at Lenore Dining Hall. Typically, the dining halls are all closed during spring break. There will be a healthy cooking demo provided by Carolina Dining Services at 11:45 a.m. There's going to be a variety of in-person fitness classes held in the Student Rec Center, Studio B, beginning at 11 a.m. There's a variety of different activity levels, from boxing to Pilates to strength training. So check those classes out. As I had mentioned, there is the wellness checks provided by the health plan. We will have Smokey, the therapy dog, visiting us in the lobby from 12 to 1:30. So you can go meet Smokey and relax with him for a little bit. There will be a brand new play zone for you in Gym B, which is located behind the exhibit hall. And this play zone will have volunteers helping monitor a hot shot basketball game challenge, hula hoop challenge. If you're good at that, let's see how long you can keep that hoop in the air for. And then there will be open jump ropes, as you might be motivated to check out your jump rope skills. We have a jump roping show provided by the Bouncing Bulldogs in the main exhibit hall at 1 o'clock. And then we're going to have some open cornhole boards for to grab your coworkers or someone else in another school and department and have some competitive games amongst each other. There will be some opportunities for mammography screenings that will be available Saturday morning before the expo at different UNC locations, as well as Wednesday evening. If you've been following the website for a while, you will notice that we did have the mammogram bus coming to the event, but their screening deadline ends very early because you don't just sign up and show up. They have to follow up with you, do phone calls. So that sign up ended last Wednesday, and we did not get enough women for the bus to come out to the expo. However, the bus will be hopefully making an appearance and screening those women who did sign up at the annual Spring Fling on May 5th. So we hope to get more women signed up for that very important annual screening and meet those women's needs who did sign up already. I encourage you to grab a tote bag at the event as those come in. Oh, let me turn this fun background off. The tote bags are in. Grab that when you come to the expo hall, and you will enjoy some relaxing music as the expo starts off, and then we'll pump up the energy throughout the day with some dance music. There's going to be some meditation sessions held at some of the exhibitors' booths earlier in the day, as well as some mindful coloring with Mindful UNC. You can make a UNC button at the Be a Maker booth. You can get your blood pressure checked if you don't want to have the whole wellness check done. UNC Wellness Centers will be providing blood pressure checks. And please safely dispose your medications that you no longer use at the UNC police station exhibit. So we encourage you to do that. Again, it is meant to be a no meetings day. Katie, I'll send those communications timeline to you. Volunteers are still needed, so volunteer sign up is still going to remain open through Friday. Hopefully we'll get everyone that we need. There are still 25 open volunteer slots that start at 10 a.m. The earlier morning shifts were picked up already, but volunteers get a free t-shirt, and we will have a volunteer lounge for volunteers this year with light refreshments for you to enjoy before and after your volunteer shifts. Shifts are just 1 hour, but you're welcome to sign up as many as you want. Of course, we do want you to enjoy the event as well. And you'll see more information in Friday's Work Well newsletter, and the website is live. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really briefly. So if you've not yet been to it, the website has an easy go link, which is gounc.edu/expo. And here you're going to find all your details. You have the agenda for the day. These fantastic buttons, which I love, that take you straight back to the home page or to the top of the page. We also have virtual events for you because we all have different work schedules and we're not always here on Wednesday, but we hope that you're flexing your schedule so that you can attend on Wednesday. But we have some virtual opportunities throughout the week as well. This is more than we typically offer. So do check those out and register for those sessions so you can get the login information. We have added some sessions to our on-demand library, and then here you can see everyone who will be in the exhibit hall. So we encourage you to look that over and make note of what booths you want to visit. So go ahead and stop sharing my screen now, but we hope to see you there. If you're a supervisor at any level, please communicate this with your employees. Don't wait for them to ask you about attending. Proactively encourage them to come out for any amount of time. The goal is not to participate in everything, but to offer a variety of activities that can appeal to people's different interests. With our virtual sessions, we have classes such as 30-minute abs, no crunches involved, some gentle yoga classes. We have education sessions on leading a well workplace, self-care for your neck and back, and much more. There is a daily meditation, virtual meditation session every single day of the week. We have information sessions on childcare, ensuring affordable, accessible care, retirement, and more. And then we're still promoting all the other things we have going on in March through the Office of State Human Resources. They have a self-care 911 class next week, Tuesday, at their regular time of 11:30. And then our Wellness Wednesday sessions will be limited with everything else that's going on in March. But next Wednesday, we have a brand new session, which is really intriguing. I will be on there. You can't see who's participating, so don't feel shy about signing up and participating. It's a webinar, but the topic is managing worry and anxiety. It's a brand new topic, and I think it's going to help a lot of us out. And then on the 22nd, we have a session on eating healthy on a budget, because sometimes eating healthy can be a little bit more expensive, but pay for it now or pay for it later, folks. In February, we had a fantastic turnout with our webinars. We reached 123 employees with our 3 webinars. We had high participation in 10 strategies for improving your finances, as well as unconscious bias. We had over 50 people attend both of those sessions, which is much greater than what we typically see. Again, check out our calendar. Our sessions are on there for the whole month. And still not done, but haven't sneezed yet. Miles for Wellness begins March 13th. A lot of you participate. If you've been thinking about participating, perhaps this is the challenge for you. It is the 27th challenge. Again, this challenge is every fall and every spring. The theme for this challenge is Road to the Stanley Cup. We visited football stadiums in the fall. We're visiting hockey stadiums this spring. It is a virtual, it is team-based, up to teams of 10. It starts Monday, the 13th of March and runs through May 7th. So registration stays open until the first day of the challenge through the night of the challenge on March 13th. So you'll see more about that in the newsletter as well, but in case you miss it, I just wanted to give it a plug. And then every single month, we're focusing on financial wellness for you. This is a big concern. Inflation has hit us all at the grocery store in every which direction. So the March financial tip will be understanding your credit score, knowing that you can pull your credit reports every year for free. And that information, additional information will be provided by the State Employees Credit Union in this month's newsletter. We also have a series of wellness workshops that will be beginning later in March on the 24th. They will be led by the credit union, and topics will vary each week, but they'll be offered weekly for a month, and you can see those topics in the newsletter and start signing up for those on Friday. They'll have the option to participate in person if you like to join us in person, but also virtually as well. And then Governor's Awards for Excellence, the State Recognition Award, those are now open. Nominations stay open through April 14th. These awards are to acknowledge employees for their outstanding accomplishments made outside of their regular job responsibilities. There are 7 categories to review. See if anybody that you work with fits in one of those categories. Some of them include efficiency and innovation, human relations, public service, and 4 other topics. But we have had people from the university receive these awards before, and we hope to continue that trend with nominating more people each year and hopefully getting a winner. The discounts that will be highlighted in this month's newsletter will be your opportunity to save 25% off of 1 pair of Crocs shoes, which have been voted are pretty comfortable shoes. So if you know anybody who needs a pair of Crocs, you can save 25% off of 1 pair if you are a state health plan member. And then $10 off of the Title Boxing month-to-month plan. Title Boxing opened about 5 years ago, right here in Chapel Hill on Environ Way. So check out their Chapel Hill club. They have other clubs throughout the Triangle. Title Boxing will be at the Expo Resource Fair. They will have their boxing mitts, so you can visit and take some aggression out and give them your best punch over there. They'll be ready for it. And they also will be kicking off the fitness classes that morning at the Expo and offering a 25 demo class at 11 a.m. So come dressed to be active. We look forward to seeing you there. And I will open it up to you to let me know if you have any questions about the event or anything else that I had mentioned.
Questions for Jessica? Excellent. As always, Jessica, if you'll send that list of updates, I'll forward it out to delegates so they can share it with their constituencies. And thank you for all the work you're doing with the Wellness Expo. It's going to be a great event.
Absolutely. I look forward to seeing you, and thank you for those of you. I recognize some names on the volunteer list already from the forum, so I know that you've been signing up. I look forward to seeing you there.
There was one question in the chat. Can you repeat how to access the 25% discount for Crocs?
So that is going to be from the Blue 365 Deals website. That website is available to anybody who has Blue Cross, Blue Shield, health insurance of any kind, which is currently state health plan members for the next couple of years. So that is how you would access it. It is located, you can get information about that specific website on our discount page on the HR website. And I will drop it in the chat box as well. It's going to be a long link because it takes you specifically to the Crocs discount. But once you're in there, if you've never been there before, when you join the Blue 365 program, it's just going to ask you for the first couple of letters on your state health plan card. After that, these discounts are wonderful. I've taken advantage of the Skechers discount, Fitbit discount several times, really good health and wellness discounts, and they just added a whole section on apparel and footwear. So that's where the Crocs discount is located, and that is the very long link to access it. But that information is also on the HR website, where you can look at all of our different programs, Working Advantage, Perks Connect. There are a lot of different discount programs that you can tap into to save some money.
Excellent. Thanks, Jessica.
Yep.
Thanks to Becky and Link as well for all of your great updates. We are moving right along to the next item on our agenda, which is our consent agenda. I'm going to unilaterally make the decision. We're going to pull committee reports out this time because we've got time to run through those this time. So just February minutes are part of the consent agenda, which Matt, I believe, sent around earlier for y'all to review. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Arlene. I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second. It's Janet.
All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, the consent agenda passes. And now we'll move into committee updates. So we'll kick things off with communications and public relations. Shane and or Joe, any updates from y'all?
I'm assuming Shane's not here, so nothing to pass right now.
All right, book club, Vanessa. I don't know if Vanessa's on the call.
Yep, just that we have a March book club. It is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens, and that'll be the third Thursday in March this month.
Excellent, great book, by the way. Next up, we've got community service, Jacob and or Jay.
Hi, hopefully later this week, maybe next week, we are going to be getting out our March Kindness Drive that's going to be supporting the Interfaith Food Shuttle, which helps support different food programs throughout the Triangle. A little concerned about putting out a March Madness thing when we're still so firmly on the bubble. Hopefully this Saturday shifts things in the right direction and not in the wrong direction. But either way, if it doesn't, we're going to channel all of our misplaced energy into supporting those in most need. So we'll look to get that about later this week or probably next week. Honestly, I'm a little swamped and I've got some personal stuff happening this weekend, so I'm a little behind schedule on that. But we'll be doing that. There was something else I was going to say, and I'm totally blanking on it. Awesome. I love that. My brain is Swiss cheese. Super useful.
We're right there with you. I feel you. If you think of it, just let us know. Carolina Blood Drive, Amber and or Laura.
Hey friends, same update that I've had the past few months. Hope you have the date saved on your calendar. Wednesday, May 3rd, down at the Dean Dome. It's going to be fantastic, that's for sure. I do have exciting news to share that we finally have the appointment registration link available. Hooray! So I will be sending that out at some point this week. Let's be honest, it may not be today, but I will aim to get that out to you all this week so we can start getting those appointments filled. I think that's all.
Excellent. Laura and the Blood Drive team are going to be out in full force at the Wellness Expo, so we're looking forward to having that booth there as well. May 3rd, no June drive this year, May drive this year. And that's the same day as the employee forum meeting. So I encourage you all to try and attend both and support both efforts that day. So community garden, Arlene.
Claire, I asked Claire if she had any news. There are matters in progress, but not ready to be reported on, but she did want to express her thanks to the forum for our continued support.
Of course. And if I know that there was discussion of a survey to help Claire. So if we can help in any way with that, just let us know.
I talked to her yesterday. She's looking at late April.
Okay, great. Jacob, I'm assuming you remembered what you were going to say. Yay.
The problem is because it was the same thing, but it was a subtle subsection of the same thing. This year, instead of doing trying to go through campus and doing the big blast for all the employees, I'm really hoping that we can just send out individual ones through the current employee forum, mostly so that it's a little bit more personal, so that when you send it to your units asking for help, it's a little more personal. And we also all get probably a whole lot of no reply UNC emails, and it's really easy to be like, oh, I'll look at that in a second, and then your inbox continues to fill up and it gets lost. So out of a hope to do that, I'd really appreciate if everyone here could help leverage their community connections and their places within their units, and also outside of the school. That was the main thing I wanted to make sure I said. Thank you.
I think we can make that happen. All right, next up, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Janet.
All right. No major updates other than we are kind of looking at our small budget and trying to see how we can use that couple of hundred and spread it out kind of thing. So we have a couple of ideas we're touring with, but I just want to say a special thanks to the employee forum as a whole. It seems like every issue that we are kind of, concerned about when we come here, it's like, yes, it is on y'all's docket already. So we really do appreciate that for just recognizing things that we don't have to steamroll ahead with suggestions. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Rebecca, am I missing anything? That's my co-chair there.
Nope, I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Great. No updates, I'm assuming, from the campus level DEI council, right?
Nope.
Right. Education and career development, LE and or Laura.
Not a bunch of updates, really, just that professional development grants and Carolina Family Scholarship will open middle of next month. So just keep it on your calendars, and we'll be reaching out probably for requesting some reviewers for both of those.
Excellent. Executive committee, no updates there that I can think of, unless Keith has anything since he led the last meeting. All right.
I do not.
Membership and assignments, Tiffany and or Keith.
Sorry, y'all. So we did meet yesterday to do some updates and try to establish some the timeline for nominations, elections, the verbiage that's going to go out to supervisors and out to those who are nominated. So, and we are touching base again tomorrow to kind of wrap that up along with Matt to make sure that our timeline makes sense on his end. But that's pretty much most of what I have, unless either you or Keith want to elaborate more on what we talked about.
No, other than to be on the lookout for that call to nominations. And I would encourage this group, in addition to leveraging you through the March Kindness Drive, if you send out kind of strong encouragement to your fellow employees and your units to run and to serve, that's always appreciated. We definitely are looking forward to the next cohort next year. So encourage you all to lift some folks up in your unit who will be great leaders to come and will be great additions to the employee forum team. So personnel issues, Matthew, Teal, and or Leah.
Hi, I'm not sure if Matthew is on, so I can talk about it. So we have several resolutions in the works. So one is the draft that we just sent around about sexual assault and sexual harassment. So we'll read that draft today. The others that we have in the works are one on campus accessibility. That was in relation to the recent article published in the Daily Tar Heel and the maintenance backlog. One on affordable housing is an issue that we've continued to follow this whole year, and we are going to have a speaker next month in our general forum meeting to hear more about that. And then another resolution potentially on healthcare. So both the state health plan, depending on what happens with that, and then maybe looking at the Medicaid bill that's in the state, that's being considered in the state now, in the legislature now. And we'll learn more about that and see what we need to, if we need to take action on that. So that's all that I have for now.
Excellent. So I encourage you all to, if you're interested in any of those particular efforts, to reach out to Leah and Matt and lend your hand in helping to develop those resolutions. And the Personnel Issues Committee counts on the efforts from everyone in various different committees on the forum. So if you're passionate about any one of those topics, please reach out and assist with the development of those resolutions and or proclamations, because that's always really important that we get a good workshop done before we bring them to the floor so they're ready to go. So thank you for all of that, Matt and Leah. We'll transition back to personnel issues when we get to new business. Recognition and awards, Tiffany Carver and or Jesse Hill.
No updates as of yet, but we will be in the spring, this spring, needing readers to help us out. And so we'll keep you posted, probably have a better update by our next meeting, but I will touch base with Matt just to make sure that our timeline is correct and that we're staying on task.
Excellent. UNC Systems Staff Assembly, Shayna, myself, Keith, James, Shane. I know we have an update because we just got an email this morning.
Hi, everybody. The next full body meeting of the Staff Assembly will be April 3rd and 4th. Something to note, we are having a discussion on the policy revision regarding compelled speech or banning, more specifically banning compelled speech. We are working on a proclamation, which may actually be a resolution. We're not sure at this point, because our concerns are that this is not in line with our DEI efforts. And we want to make sure that we have a very, a very clear message to the system about our concerns. So if you want to know any more about that effort, or you want to talk to me and help me work on that, please email me. I do need some help finishing up that resolution proclamation, but it will be presented and voted on more than likely on April 3rd or 4th.
Excellent. Yes, I encourage you all to reach out and assist Shayna in that effort. And hopefully when the Staff Assembly passes it, perhaps we can also adopt a similar resolution on our specific campus as well. So always glad to amplify the voices back and forth between Staff Assembly and the employee forum. So thanks for that, Shayna.
Can I make an embarrassing revelation? I need somebody to help me footnote this thing.
Okay.
It's been a while since I was in school, and I need some ridiculously easy help, but I do, please.
I got you.
No embarrassment necessary.
Thank you.
When do you take your seat as chair of the Staff Assembly? Is it July?
It's October.
October? Okay. Eagerly awaiting October. You're such a fantastic leader. It's gonna be great. All right. That does it for employee forum committees. University committees, instead of reading through all of these, I'm going to kind of open up the floor to anyone that's on the call that wants to bring forward an update from a university committee. I'll start with the Advisory Committee for Transportation and Parking. We did meet last week for the first time to kind of charge the committee and kind of go through the timeline that we're going to be working with to develop the 5-year plan around transportation and parking. So that's exciting that that process has started. And I lent my voice as coming from it, a perspective of wanting to ensure staff have affordable parking options on campus, and that we're protecting our lowest paid employees on campus, and hopefully can find an alternative for them to not have to pay to park on campus given their salaries. So I'm excited about that process. If you guys have any questions or want to be involved in any way, please reach out to Keith and I, who are the liaisons to that particular campus level initiative. I see that James Damey has turned his camera on. Hello, James. I'm assuming you have a building and grounds committee update.
Yes, and I'm getting ready to head to class. We met on February 9th to discuss more updates on the signage at the surgical tower at the UNC hospitals, trying to make it more accessible for non-English speaking people who come to campus or work on campus. We heard a few updates about that, seen some other signage and voted on some of them, but there's still some things we would like to see before we vote on all of it. The other thing is some of the, I just came to the Swain lot booth. Apparently some of these booths at some of these lots are going to come down and they're going to reconfigure the islands. I know Swain is one of the main ones. I have a list, but I don't have it with me. I apologize. But they're going to reconfigure a lot of the islands where there are armed gates, parking booths. And one of the interesting things, since you're on the parking committee or starting that, we found out that you will no longer need gate access or with a card, or I guess it's going to read your tag, because I asked a specific question. If you're driving a state vehicle, how would you get by? And it's supposed to read your tag. I assume if you're someone who has parking access in a personal vehicle, the same thing would apply, but that's something interesting, and maybe you can find out more about that, or we will later on.
Definitely will look into that, because I know that there's folks that have service permits and gate access cards to those lots. So that would definitely impact them, because it wouldn't automatically read their tag and be able to recognize that they have access to that space.
And since I come to Swain lot a lot for class and other things, I wanted to make sure, because I just swiped mine and got it to go through, but I wanted to make sure it would read a state tag, state vehicle, but also personal vehicles. And evidently that's where we're headed.
Interesting. Great update. Thanks, James.
Yeah, just to add on to that, the first new gate that they're installing is at the Knapp Sanders deck, which is my building. We're currently under construction, which is fun. They haven't actually pulled the islands yet. But for ones that also serve exterior clients, there may be the possibility of adding QR codes. They're also hoping to create a centralized location for gate communications as well. So lots of moving pieces.
Technology for the win. Oh my goodness. So that will be fun to navigate all of those new changes to parking, and will create confusion as always. So great. Anyone else have any university committee updates for anything that they serve on? I'll say STAC does have a March meeting. It's going to be on Friday, March 17th. So looking forward to that conversation with the Chancellor and his team. Anyone else? All right, well, that does it for university committee updates. We do not have any old business to share this time, so we will move into new business. We're super ahead of schedule, which I love. So it gives us plenty of time to have a substantive discussion about our first reading of the sexual assault. I don't know if it's a proclamation or resolution at this point. I think that's one of the points of discussion we'll have today. So we're bringing this to the floor. Sorry, it's not on the agenda, but we will chat about that now. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt Teal and Leah Hefner to bring that forward. I can share my screen if you guys need me to, because I do have it open, or you guys are welcome to do that instead.
That would actually be great, because I'm having keyboard issues. I have it pulled up where I can read it, but if somebody else could do any kind of editing, that would be good.
All right, let me find the right window, because that's not the agenda. Here we go. So I'll let you go ahead and start talking. I'm going to find the right thing to share on my screen. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so so the Personnel Issues Committee looked at the resolution that we published last year and just wanted to edit it for this year. So a lot of the edits are pretty minor. And then we sort of got into this discussion about, do we want this to, if we're going to publish something like this sort of annually, do we want it to be more of a proclamation style statement or a resolution? So the difference being, a resolution would contain specific ask of administration that, or other bodies that we would want to follow up on with progress reports. So should I just read through it first, and then we can have that discussion.
Sure.
Okay, and I've just dated it as of yesterday when we edited the draft. This will change for the final resolution or proclamation. But I'll just read the whole thing. So resolution 2301 concerning sexual assault and sexual harassment, resolution of the Employee Forum, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, February 28th, 2023. Whereas the mission of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill's UNC-Chapel Hill Employee Forum is to advocate for and constructively address the challenges, needs, and opportunities of UNC-Chapel Hill employees and to continually improve the quality of life at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill for its students, faculty, and employees through mutual understanding, recognition of employee contributions, and respect for the worth of the individual. And whereas the month of April has been designated Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the United States to pursue the ever-present need of raising public awareness about sexual assault, educating communities and individuals on how to respond to instances of sexual assault, and building the necessary community-level social and cultural change needed to prevent sexual assault. And whereas sexual assault is having or attempting to have sexual contact with another individual without consent, and sexual harassment is unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical harassment of a sexual nature, or offensive remarks about a person's sex. Whereas members of the UNC-Chapel Hill campus community are primary or secondary victims, survivors of sexual assault and sexual harassment, and whereas sexual assault affects people of all genders, races, abilities, and sexual orientations, and disproportionately affects individuals ages 12 through 34, women, people of color, people with disabilities, and people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning, and intersex, LGBTQI. And whereas sexual assault and sexual harassment have a significant negative impact on our campus climate and undermine progress towards UNC-Chapel Hill's Strategic Plan Initiative 1, Build Our Community Together. And whereas every member of our campus community is entitled to live, learn, and work in an environment that is inclusive and welcoming. And whereas the Employee Forum has declared by resolution in 2008, 2011, 2013, 2015, 2016, and 2022 its unequivocal support for the continued development of strong measures to prevent and respond appropriately to incidents of sexual assault and sexual harassment on our campus. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Employee Forum reaffirms its commitment to a safe and inclusive campus community by annually recognizing April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, strongly supporting campus, local, and state efforts to prevent the violence in all its forms, and connecting victims, survivors of sexual assault and sexual harassment with support and resources. Be it further resolved that the Employee Forum petitions the Equal Opportunity and Compliance Office, the Office of Human Resources, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Student Affairs, UNC Police, and University Administration to continue to hold and promote Sexual Assault Awareness Month events, support prevention efforts of the university, including the work of the Violence Prevention Coordinators, the UNC Gender-Based Violence Prevention Advisory Group, and the recommendations contained in the group's Fall 2020 report. Support the work of the Gender Violence Services Coordinators and care for victims, survivors. Assess the campus climate around issues of sexual assault and sexual harassment, including data collected through Clary Act reporting and cases filed with and investigated by the Equal Opportunity Office. Publish EOC annual reports more quickly so the campus community has up-to-date information about sexual assault and sexual harassment on campus. Make the findings of that assessment public and communicate about those findings. Incorporate community feedback to maintain and annually update the university's policies related to gender-based violence and harassment and related training modules, and hold the perpetrators of sexual assault and sexual harassment accountable. Advance discourse on the systemic and social cultural aspects that enable instances of sexual assault to persist. On behalf of the delegates of the Employee Forum, Katie Musgrove, Chair. Oh, I can't hear what
Katie,
Katie.
you're muted.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying I'm gonna save this to the shared drive because I do not have an editable version shared, so.
Okay.
We can open up discussion, comments, questions, thoughts about the first reading of proposed resolution 23-01 concerning sexual assault awareness month. Arlene, your hand's up.
This is one of those things that we'd have, if we make it a proclamation, we'll need to change the language because resolutions ask for something. Proclamation just say, here's our statement, which, you know, that's not a bad thing. We just once we decide whether or not it's a proclamation resolution, that will depend on whether or not we need to change language.
Great point, Arlene. The biggest difference, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Jacob, as parliamentarian, between resolution and proclamation is that a resolution is making a tangible ask and a proclamation is simply making a statement and doesn't have an ask within. Is that correct?
That is the formatting difference. I think there are also parliamentary procedural differences as well. I think a proclamation doesn't require the same number of readings. I can double check.
Another great
That
point.
is correct. Proclamation does not require the 2 reads. And you are correct. A proclamation is just you proclaiming something. And then the resolution is you wanting to see something resolved.
Yeah. And I don't know that we are that concerned about the 2 reading rule this time around for the simple fact that we would want to pass this in April, which is when Sexual Assault Awareness Month actually occurs. So I would be fine with keeping this a resolution unless someone feels strongly that it needs to convert to a proclamation, especially given past precedent that all the others have been resolutions thus far. Feedback on the language within. I think we got one via email recently.
Yeah,
well, thank you for that, Matt. I'm going to change the date on here. All right, we got agreement with it being a resolution in the chat. I'm going to pull up the email I got with some language feedback. Let me see here. Under the be it further resolved section we need to change the correct name of the office reference to the University Office of Diversity and Inclusion, just to be clear as to which office we're referring to, given the number of DEI offices across campus. So I'm going to go into document down and find the opening language for the result.
I do see that Jake is on the meeting and he reached out to some of these offices. I don't know if he has anything to say. Jake, do you want to say anything about what you found out from conversations?
I was gonna say the office I talked to, and I'm gonna botch their name. It's Gender Violence Services Coordinators, I think, and they provided feedback on the language here. The data, like the search for data, came from EOC office, I think.
Right.
And one of the ask that we added this year was to publish the EOC annual reports more quickly, because the most up-to-date information that they could give us was from 2020, 2021. So it's 2 years old.
I'm just correcting some formatting issues here. Other thoughts and feedback? Let me pull back up my chat here. Given where we're at with campus safety and gender violence in general, it makes sense to continue to ask for things. So keep resolution. Maybe I'm missing it, but feels like it could make sense to mention the Carolina Women's Center somewhere. That's a great point, Kira. I will say I know they're moving forward with Professor Beth Posner. Her recommendation is due to go to Kevin and his team this month around what the future of the Carolina Women's Center will look like. So maybe language around looking forward to reviewing the results of that report and the recommendations within, or something like that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a general statement that one should exist on campus, whatever iteration that takes.
Recommit to developing a women's center. That's a great, that's some good language there. Would that be under the be it further resolved asks, I'm assuming? And if so, in which order would we include that? So I know that the violence prevention coordinators and gender-based, those would be connected with and affiliated with in some way the future Carolina Women's Center in some capacity. So maybe directly after the third bullet. I think maybe here.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay, so somebody start spewing out language, and I'm just going to type and kind of dictate what y'all want to add here, because I am open to whatever language y'all prefer.
Maybe add what was in the chat, the recommit to developing the women's, or the Carolina Women's Center in whatever, I don't know, I'm tired this morning, so like in whatever iteration that will best serve the needs of the community. I don't know, something like that. Iteration is not the right word, but
and we can obviously tweak that language. I like also Rebecca's secondary comment around redesigning, funding, and staffing the new center. So maybe as well, instead of in whatever iteration,
maybe just say that,
including redesigning, funding, and staffing the new center.
Yeah.
Thoughts? Sound good?
Including whatever redesign, funding, and staffing to support the new center.
Sorry, say again, Arlene.
Recommit to developing the Carolina Women's Center, including whatever redesign, funding, and staffing supports the new center.
Yeah,
Staffing
Arlene, I think
supports the center.
yeah, because right, like that's the whole issue, is like this thing sort of existed, but there's nobody doing anything. So like to support the actual mission of the
supports the needs of the community. That's really well done. Staffing that supports the needs of the community. Staffing that supports the needs of the community. Thank you, Matthew.
Okay, including whatever redesign, funding, and staffing. I feel like there's some language missing in between that and that supports.
What if it's just including recommit to developing the Women's Center, including, I mean, because we're kind of saying like, which includes a redesign,
right,
appropriate funding and staffing.
I think
like parenthetical and then to support, or that supports the needs of the community.
Including potentially redesigning, funding, and staffing needs.
Including potential redesign. Bye, Tracy. Ooh,
Oh, that's also true.
Yeah, the
I mean,
rename.
that's kind of a part of a redesign though, too.
Can you do
maybe
slash, like redesign, rename? I mean, it's like redesign, rename, rebrand. I mean, it, you know,
Right. I
all
think
those things.
redesign encompasses a potential name change. Including potential redesign, funding, and staffing. It's just the language is not congruent. It doesn't flow together. That's
Would it be recommit to developing the Carolina Women's Center, including a potential redesign, increased funding, and additional staffing that supports the needs?
and
Increased staffing, or excuse me, additional, sorry. Does that fix that?
that meets the needs of the campus community. Bye, Manisha.
I think that sounds really good.
Matthew came with the meets the needs too.
That meets the needs instead of just supports the needs. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Yeah, makes sense.
Matt's full of the good language.
Right.
True. Okay. Other feedback on potential tweaks, edits, improvements to this first reading. Again, we'll have another reading in April before passing this resolution. So if you have tweaks or feedback to this draft resolution in between now and then, you can reach out to the Personnel Issues Committee to suggest those changes. I'm got this version right now saved under the Employee Forum Teams site under Personnel Issues, Resolutions, and then the 23-01 Sexual Assault folder. So feel free to reach out to Matt or Leah to provide additional feedback, or feel free to suggest the feedback in the document itself. I've got track changes on. We do also have footnotes down here that I'll point to, and thank you for everyone for contributions to those. And Matt has some comments in here as well, so. All right, anything else we can think of? Oh, thank you. Matthew Teal put the link in the chat to the document in question, so to utilize that. Okay, well, at this point, unless I'm hearing any other discussion on the first reading, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Stop share. And just save, even though it's actively saving. All right, so we are in the new business section. So at this point, I'm going to open up the floor to any additional new business not on the agenda. So feel free to raise your hand, unmute yourself. Love to hear anything y'all want to chat about as we wrap up our March meeting.
I have a question, I guess. So I heard, or I think with the, I guess you guys know that we're getting like new badges and the HID cards and that sort of stuff. So I'm thinking that that is going to, I'm trying to think of how to word this. People with time card clocks that swipe in, I heard that they are thinking about taking away time clocks, which for salary people, I'm not sure if this is going to be an issue or not, because we don't have enough computers for everybody to be able to, you know, log in at the same time. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there and ask if anybody else has any more information about this or know of anything else. So yeah, just putting that out there.
I don't know if Becky and or Link are still on the call that may be able to answer that, because that is a good question. If we're not going to be supporting the infrastructure that currently exists for those that have to clock in and out actively for their shift, given this change. Are Becky or Link still on the call?
They're not, Katie.
Oh, okay. So maybe Janet, that's a good question. We've still got quite a long ways before our next VC reps meeting, so that's too long to wait maybe. So maybe drafting an email to Becky and Link and copying myself, and we can see if we can track down an answer sooner rather than later.
All right. Will do. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that forward. Anyone else have anything they'd like to chat about?
Rebecca has a comment about the cards in the
Oh,
chat.
the new cards still have a swipe strip on it, so I don't know what that, if it wouldn't work with the existing system. Oh, that's a good.
Yeah, it still has a swipe strip on it, which is the reason why I didn't think it was going to be an issue. But then I heard that they were taking away the time clocks. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Lost themselves. I missed you.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So yeah. Yeah.
That's problematic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because
a little difficult.
We have an entire section with time clock when I hadn't heard anything, but I'll check with that area as well. Go, hey, have you guys heard anything?
Okay, appreciate that.
Rebecca.
Sorry, I've been doing dueling meetings today, so that's why I've been in the chat. I do want to just make sure it's on our radar about the change next year for graduation being on Saturday, not Sunday. I know that's going to have a huge impact on support staff who work graduation in particular. So I just want to kind of put that out there as something either various committees to work on or just employee forum in general to make sure that that's something that we're planning early. Sorry for my voice. I'm one of the early law school COVID cases. I did not go to barristers though. Thank you. I was just with our visiting German students who I think brought it with them. So good times.
Good times. Thanks, Rebecca. Charles, your hand is up. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I try to be very careful not to make mistakes on Zoom. If you don't know me, I'm Charles Streeter. If we haven't met, I'm a previous chair of the Employee Forum. And because it's March and we're getting down to the period where there's transitioning happening and it's time for voting, I want to encourage you to talk to your fellow employees, to run for being a delegate of the Employee Forum. I know right now, because it's COVID and a lot of things have changed, some of the communication and the way we normally interact, or you would normally interact as a delegate in person, that's kind of changed. But I want to encourage you to, talk to other people about the forum, get them psyched up, tell them to run. This is a good place to be to find out what's going on in the university, to meet other people across campus, to not just sit in your own little silo, sitting in that gray tower, and you find out what's going on. You make great connections. And then also, you're advocating for your fellow employee. And I want to also say, if you continue on the forum, and even with the months that you have left, as much as you can, get the word out about the Employee Forum. I was in a meeting for one of the committees, and someone came forward and she said she didn't think the forum had done a good job about getting the word out about who we were or who we are. And I say we because I'm still doing stuff, even though I'm not an active delegate. I still do stuff in the background because I'm concerned about this organization. I'm concerned about staff. I've made some very great friends who are not in my department. And I'm so glad that I know these folks, because a lot of good things have happened to make me feel better just about the university and about working, and especially during COVID. And it's just not your normal group of friends. But as much as you can do, get the word out. If people don't know about the Employee Forum, I know a lot was done before I was chair, while I was chair, after I was chair about getting the word out about the employee forum. And people don't read as much as you do stuff on Twitter, you do stuff on Facebook, you send out emails. That person-to-person contact is very important. And I want to encourage you all now to try and, get people to run and tell them all the great things about the employee forum. And if you need some help, vouching for the forum, hey, streeter@unc.edu, find me. Hey, I will be that person, but we need people to run. We need delegates, and we need to get the word out for the employee forum.
I second everything Charles just said. I do have a bit of good news on that front to share, that the employee forum was reached out to about participating in next week's faculty administrator orientation, which is the first of its kind, I believe, that they're having. It includes all the new deans and all the new administrators. So they're getting some training on being in their new administrative roles, and they want the employee forum to come and present. And Keith and I are going to go chat with them and talk to them about the employee forum, who we are, what we do. And so we're going to get out in front of these deans and administrators and talk all about the employee forum and why it's so important for staff and their units to serve. So that's a great addition to this process, so that we're getting some more support from the deans all across campus. So yay. But I second everything Charles said in terms of reaching out to your fellow employees and encouraging them to run. It's a great experience. I've been on this forum for, oh my God, eight years now, I think. Oh my God, so long. So yes, and Jessica is putting in the chat, the email went out, and I did see that email come through. So thank you for that, Jessica. Wellness Expo is going to be a fun event. All right. Other thoughts, comments, feedback, things we want to talk about as a forum this month? I also will say that please be sure you're continuing to work closely with your committees. Committee work is where a lot of the meat of what we do here on the employee forum, the magic, so to speak, happens. So make sure you're engaging with at least your one primary committee, but you're welcome to engage with as many committees as you like. That way we have things to bring forward, resolutions, proclamations, business things, amazing things like the March Kindness Drive that community service is putting on, just all the great work the employee forum is doing. So just another plug on committee work there. Happy Women's History Month. Yes, thanks, Charlie. Ides of March. All right, folks. Well, unless there's any other comment, do I hear a motion to adjourn early and give y'all around 15 minutes of your day back?
This is Arlene. I move to adjourn.
Second.
Are there any opposed? We'll pass this by acclamation.
Absolutely not.
All right, folks. Well, happy March to you all. Let me know, as always, if there's anything I can do to help you in your role as delegates. Thank you for your continued service and have a great
Thanks,
rest.
Katie.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
your
y'all.
Kleenex
Stay
ready.
safe from the pollen. Remember, masks work against pollen too.
It's
Bye,
awful.
everyone. Have a good week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, folks.
Katie, we're tomorrow at, is it 2?
I think so. I think that's right.
Okay. All right, perfect.
See you tomorrow, Tiffany. Matt,
See you
I'll
tomorrow.
this afternoon.
Yep, see you this afternoon. Good job today. Good work. It was lots of stuff covered in a short amount of time. Good work.
Absolutely.
And thanks to Dawn, who's still on the call, for your amazing presentation.
Thanks to Vice Chancellor Osborne-Adams.
So formal, Matt.
I know, I'm teasing her with that.
I know. All right, folks. Have a good one.
Take care. I'm gonna shut off the the room in about 30 seconds. Okay, shutting down now. Hope everyone has a good day. Take care.